Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Android Studio tutorial. So in the previous episode we already learned about what is the exact use of a fragment in an Android application. So now from this tutorial onwards we are going to working with a fragment in an Android application. So a fragment can be added in two ways. First one, you can add a fragment directly into the XML file using a fragment tag. And the second option, you can add a fragment at runtime. So here I am going to show you how to add a fragment directly into the XML file of an activity using a fragment tag. So this is the application now we are going to create. So we have to create a layout similar to this one. This is a single activity that contains two fragments. The left side is a fragment that contains a list view which will display some Android versions, and the right side is another fragment that will display some descriptions about the Android versions. Okay, so now we are going to create a layout similar to this one. So we have to add two fragments into a single activity. So first we have to create two fragments. So for creating two fragments, first we have to create the layout for the fragment. So first layout, we have to add a list view to the fragment on the first fragment, and that will display some Android versions. So now here I am going to create a new layout file for the first fragment. So go to the layout folder, right click the layout folder and create new layout resource file. I name it as fragment 1 layout. It is of linear layout and click OK. Okay. So for identifying the two fragments, I just changed the background color of the fragment. Here is to HTML color code. Just change the background color of this layout using Android background attribute. Okay, just change the background color of this layout. So on the first fragment we have to add a list view. So here I am going to add a list view into this fragment. So list view with the width much parent. I make the height also much parent. Okay, and provide an ID for this list view using ID attribute Android ID equal to plus ID. I name it as list view. Okay, now we have a list view on this fragment layout. Okay, so this list view contain some Android versions name. So we have to add a separate layout file for the list view. So create another layout file in the layout folder. Right click the layout folder, create another layout file. Name it as list view layout. Okay, it is also linear layout and click OK. For this also I use the same background color using Android background attribute. Use the same color here. Okay, now we have to add a text view for displaying each row of data in the list view. So add a text view. Specify the width as much parent, height as wrap content. Specify an ID for this list view using Android ID attribute. Name it as row item. Okay, also make the font into a larger one using Android text appearance. Android text appearance large. Also change the font color into text color into pure black. Okay, and provide a demo text for this text view, and text equal to hello world. Okay, now specify some margin for this Android margin top into 10 dp, Android margin bottom also specify into 10 dp. Okay, also specify some margin at the left side, Android margin left into 10 dp, specify it as 20 dp. Okay, that's enough. Also change the total height of this layout, Android here change the height into 40 dp. Yeah, that's enough. Also make it align at the center, Android gravity into center. That is not neat. Okay, that is better. Now we have one row of data for the list view. Okay, now we have to create a new class file for the fragment. So we just add a layout file for the fragment called the fragment1 layout, and that fragment contain a list view, and we create another layout for representing the each row of the list view. That file name is list view layout. Okay, now we have to create a class file for the fragment. So go to your package and right click the package and create a new Java class. I name the class as fragment1. Okay, and click OK. So this will represent a fragment in our application. So we have to extend fragment. So for create a fragment, for add a particular fragment, you have to override one lifecycle method of fragment called onCreateView. So here I am going to override one of the lifecycle method of the fragment. This is the only one method you must implement to run a fragment. So create onCreateView lifecycle method here. I just remove the code inside this method. So this method contain arguments like an object of layout, inflator, a view group object. Also we have a bundle object. Okay, so from this method we have to inflate a view for the fragment. So for that I create an object of view class here. I name it as view equal to, you can inflate the layout using the layout inflator object. So inflator, and call the method called inflate. First you have to specify the fragment layout. So r dot layout dot, our fragment layout name is fragment1 layout. Now you have to specify the view group object. So container, and one more argument is there. I pass false for that one. And finally return this view object. Okay, now we add the first fragment. Now we have to add the second fragment that will display some descriptions of the Android versions. So we have to create another layout file. So right click the layout folder and create another layout resource file, and I name it as fragment2 layout, and click OK. Now here I am going to use another color for this fragment using Android background attribute, Android background. Okay. Now here we need a single text view for displaying the descriptions about the Android version. So add a text view with the width is match parent and height is wrap content. So provide an ID for this text view using Android ID attribute. I name it as text view. Okay, now provide some text for this Android text equal to Android version name. Put a new line, Android API, another new line, Android release date. Okay, that's enough. Yeah, now change the font color into pure black using Android text color into hash 1 2 3 4 5 6 zeros. Yeah, now it's pure black. Also make the font into bigger one using Android text appearance into Android text appearance large. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Now we have to create another class for this second fragment layout. So right click the package name and create another Java class. I name it as fragment2 and click OK. Also extends fragment. Now we have to override the onCreate view, and here you need to return the view object. So return, use the inflater object dot and call the inflate method r dot layout dot fragment2 layout and the view group object container and false. Okay, now we have two fragment 1 and fragment 2. The fragment 1 layout name is fragment 1 layout and the fragment 2 layout name is fragment 2 layout. Okay, now here we have a list view. On the fragment 1 layout we already had a list view, so now we have to make an adapter for this list view, and also we have to provide some data for this list view. So on the strings.xml file here I already add a string array with the name Android versions that represents the Android versions. Now we have to provide these informations into the list view available on fragment 1. So go to the fragment1.java class file. First one, here we have to create an object of list view. I name it as list view. Now here we have to initialize the list view object. This is not an activity, this is a fragment. So we have to use the view object to initialize any view component on that particular fragment. So list view equal to use the view object view dot find view by id r dot id dot our list view id is list view, and typecast this one into list view. Okay, now we have to add some informations into the list view. For that we have to create an array adapter. This is handled with a string and I name it as adapter. Also create a string array. I name it as versions. So first here we have to initialize the string array. So versions equal to get resources dot get string array, and is available on the array resource. So r dot array dot, our array name is Android versions. Okay, now we have to initialize the array adapter object. So adapter equal to new array adapter. The first argument is the context object. So you have to pass an activity context for the list view for this adapter. So call the getActivity method. This will return an object of the host activity, getActivity. Now you have to provide the layout name r dot layout dot list view layout. Now you have to provide the text view resource for displaying each row of data. So r dot id dot text view, and finally you have to provide the data source. Here the data source is this string array, so versions. Okay, and finally we have to set the adapter for the list view. So list view dot set adapter, and specify the adapter object name. Here it is adapter. Okay, now we add a list view on the first fragment, and we provide the needed resource for displaying data on the list view. Okay, now we finish the two fragments. We create two fragments, fragment 1 and fragment 2. Now we have to add these two fragments into the activity main.xml file. So we have to add the two fragments side by side. So go to the activity main.xml file, go to the layout version. It is relative layout. I change that one into linear layout. So change this one into linear layout. Okay. Also make the orientation for this layout using Android orientation attribute into horizontal. Okay, I remove the text view here. So for adding a fragment into the XML file, you have to use a fragment tag. And one more thing, if you add the fragment directly into the XML file, you can display only one fragment at a time. That means it is not possible to replace a fragment with another one if you add the fragment using XML file. And if you want to replace one fragment with another fragment during the activity running, you have to add the fragment dynamically or programmatically. And here we are going to add the fragment directly into the XML file using fragment attribute. So we have to add the first fragment. So use the fragment attribute and specify the width as 0 dp and height as wrap content. Also provide a weight for this fragment, Android layout weight into 1. Provide an ID for this fragment, Android ID equal to plus ID. I name it as fr1, fragment 1. Okay, and close this attribute. Now you have to provide the class name for the fragment. So use the Android name attribute, and now you have to specify the class name for the first fragment. And here the class name for the first fragment is fragment 1. Okay, now we have to add the second fragment. So copy these things and paste it here. Change the ID into fragment 2, fr2. Also change the class name into fragment 2. Okay, now we add the two fragment into the activity main.xml file. Of course, here you got some rendering problems because these fragments are inflated into the layout at the time of running. That's why these rendering problems are occur. Okay, so now go to the activity main.xml file. So go to the main activity. So in the main activity we have two fragment. So if your activity contain fragment and if your application support Android version 3.0 and lower, you have to extend a special class called fragment activity. And if your application support Android version lower than 3.0, you have to extend fragment activity with the support library v4. And here I using the action bar activity. It is okay because the action bar activity is the subclass of fragment activity, and here I use the v7 support library. So you can use a action bar activity. If you're using action bar activity, you will get support for action bar and fragments. Okay, and if you're using the v4 library, you can use the fragment activity. And if your application support Android version 3.0 and above, you can use activity instead of activity. Sorry, you can use activity instead of action bar activity or fragment activity. So here I use the v7 support library, so I use the action bar activity. Okay, now we finish all the coding. Now we can test the application. So now I am going to run this application. Okay, and before going to run the application, here I made a simple mistake. Here it is, in the previous case I make it as text view. It is not text view, it is raw item, because on the list view layout our text view ID is raw item. So you have to change that one into raw item instead of text view. It's a mistake. So now we can run the application. So now I am going to run the application. So now the application is available on the virtual device. Now you can see this is the first fragment and this is the second fragment. Okay, so now we create a layout similar to this one. So if you want to make this application interactive, we have to learn how to communicate a fragment with an activity and how to communicate two fragments each other. We will learn it in the coming up tutorials. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.